Finally, in this episode of the Amanda Show, we are going to Hungary because the Prime Minister of Hungary has probably just given the most comprehensive answer to the chaos that we are seeing in today's world. I've mentioned several times in this episode that United States approved Ukraine to use its missiles, its long-range missiles, ATACMS, to hit Russia, to strike deep inside Russia, and the British and the French followed suit. So I've been really thinking. So what's this whole thing about? You are seeing the chaos in Europe with um Russia and Ukraine, and the explanation they give you from the State Department, United States State Department, is, oh, it's a case of a big aggressor, Russia, a big country bullying its small neighbor, Ukraine. Okay, we are seeing the chaos in the Middle East, where, in fact, this week, this one just happened yesterday. When I'm recording this happened yesterday. The ICC has issued arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu, that's the Prime Minister of Israel, as well as his former Defense Secretary, Yoav Gallant, and then someone from the Hamas side. Anyway, we're seeing the chaos going on in the Middle East, and every day, with Israel just going across around, killing children, destroying homes, bringing that, like, Gaza has turned into a parking lot. Now it has not just stayed in Gaza, we're also seeing it in the West Bank, and we are seeing it in Lebanon. But the State Department is telling us it's Hamas. Okay, Hamas is not in the West Bank, but let's take it that it's Hamas. No problem. And I'm asking myself, what is this? Then I'm also seeing the posturing and the hotspots in the Pacific, with China, China and Taiwan, with Japan, with the Philippines. We're seeing this thing. And I'm like, this chaos, what's going on? And all around the world, it's as if suddenly Biden just unleashed disaster everywhere. Joe Biden just unleashed disaster at the whole world. So I'm thinking, what is this? For a while, I had my reason for it. I had what I told myself, this is the answer. But I want to I want to delve into that based on what the Prime Minister of Hungary has just said, Viktor Orbán. I'm going to paraphrase, but I'll keep his quote on the screen. Viktor Orbán said that the reason for all this chaos that's going on in the world today is because for the first time in 500 years, the world is not dominated by Western civilization. And it's true. What you're seeing today is not a case of, oh, Russia aggressor and Russia just wants to take over Ukraine because Putin is Hitler, Putin is crazy, Putin wants to bomb everywhere, Putin, after conquering Ukraine, it wants to conquer Poland. It's not that. It's not a case of Hamas this, blah, 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 scatter everywhere. Okay, Hamas, yes, I agree what Hamas did on October 7th is very terrible, and there's no excuse for it. But it's not that case. What is going on in Asia is not a case of China just wants to do. I told you earlier that one of the people that I'm beginning to listen to a lot of her lecture, even if I don't agree with her ideology, is Condoleezza Rice. And one of her lecture I listened to this week, or it was from last year, she said something that came to me as, oh my God, thank you for being honest and saying this. Well, she was talking about China, and she said that China is beginning to posture as a big dog to challenge America's supremacy in Asia. She said that China is challenging America's supremacy in Asia. And the first thing I'm asking myself is, United States and Asia, how many thousands of miles away? How many? Why do you want to be supremacy in Asia, supremacy in Europe, supremacy with your Monroe Doctrine in the Americas, supremacy in Africa, supremacy everywhere? Do you get? So Victor Orban just gave the exact word, and completely, because this statement by Condoleezza Rice I just made mention of now clearly shows you that Victor Orban really said it. Because remember, Condoleezza Rice, these are the people of Iraq disaster, Afghanistan disaster. These are the people. So anyway, Victor Orban said for the first time in 500 years, Western civilization is not calling the shots. That the world has moved to Eurasia. So if you're asking yourself, why did Joe Biden unleash chaos around the world? Or the people who are using Joe Biden as puppets, why did they unleash chaos around the world? This is the reason. Because Western hegemony is over. American hegemony is over. America, what is going on in Ukraine is not a case of, oh, Russia bad, bad, bad to take over its neighbor. No, it's America using Ukraine to try to weaken Russia, who America considers as a threat to American hegemony. But we have seen that it has failed. What we are seeing in taking form in Asia is not a matter of China trying to take over Taiwan, because even the America says believes in the America's official policy. They say they believe in the one China policy, meaning that Taiwan is part of China. So this is not even a, so there's no such thing. If you are going to follow the one China policy that America believes, there's no such thing as an independent Taiwan. Taiwan is part of China. But what they are doing, because they see China as China is a threat to America's global supremacy, so they want to defeat China. That way they can become the only boss. And it's what you're seeing everywhere, even in Africa. These things we are seeing with military bases, and you're hearing we have to counter Russia and China in Africa. It's not because they think the Russians and the Chinese are not good for Africa, like they care. We have our history with the Europeans, like they care. But it's just because they want to maintain American supremacy in Africa. So Viktor Orbán said it up, and that is why I'm talking about this today. Viktor Orbán has nothing to do with Africa. He's not an African leader. But I'm saying it because we're all part of a global world, a global architecture. So whatever happens anywhere still affects us. That's why I'm having this conversation today. What you're seeing around the world is the empire has collapsed, and it has just realized it has collapsed. So it's trying to grapple and hold things together to still maintain its supremacy on the global scale, but it has ended. So now I want to now talk about this whole thing about European civilization, Western civilization. I hear it all the time. As someone who spends a lot of time listening to geopolitical analysts and lectures in universities around the world, I hear this whole thing about Western civilization all the time. They say, "Oh, it's Western." This Western civilization. When they were the Europeans were colonizing the whole world, what did they use as excuse? We are taking civilization to everybody. When the Americans went around with their own war path and escalation and bombing everywhere, oh, we are taking democracy to them. They are not democratic. We need to teach them our way of life. As if there's something inherently wrong with not being European or Europeanized. Do you understand? So even this whole thing of looking at it like the Western civilization is the supreme civilization, and everybody has to try. After all, we are speaking English here, and everybody, even you go like some. Let me before I continue, it just came to my mind now. In Nigeria, right? The the Hausa people, Hausa Fulani in Nigeria, they speak English, but the same Hausa Fulani in Niger, they speak French. In Nigeria, the Yorubas speak English. The same Yorubas in Benin Republic speak French. Do you get where I'm coming from? So this whole thing about Western civilization, like it being this, in fact, there's been no civilization other than Western civilization. That idea in itself is flawed. Because if we look at it, civilization started from Africa. It started from Egypt. Civilization started from Africa. It did. Now, if we look beyond Africa, since we are talking about the globe, if we look beyond Africa, there was a serious and sophisticated civilization in the Middle East. All these ancient empires we think of, in the Middle East, the Persians, Middle East, the Assyrians, Middle East. These are rich with rich culture that their civilization dates back thousands, 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 thousands of years. But no, that one is inferior. It just has to be European or well European civilization, aka Western civilization. That's why when you dress a certain way, they laugh at you that why you dressing like that. You have to dress like them. Maybe that's why today I decided to wear. So I decided to wear this. No, what if you don't dress like them? There's something inherently wrong with you. If you don't talk like them, there's something inherently wrong with you. Like you have to aspire to be European. Well, the European system is over, and they cannot. After 500 years, they cannot believe it. I'm sure that those ancestors will look at these ones now, these ones who are calling the shots in the West, and say how stupid these people are. How stupid these people are. So just before I started recording this video, I was reading a a write up by he's an intellectual. I like him. He's a YouTube. He's a YouTube channel, but he also has a Substack. So he was talking about it is European, of course, but he was talking about Europe post America. Like clearly, the American empire is over. So, like I've said several times on this show, the world is now trying to create a new system that will govern it. That's why everybody is running around trying to create a system that will benefit it in this new world order. So, anyway, in the article I read, he said this is just an idea. The Europeans may not follow this path, but this is just an idea. What he was saying is that now that America has fallen and it will still fall some more, Europe will finally arrange itself to assert itself on a global setting. That was what he said. And so this made me think because this is what he's saying. I've heard a lot of Americans, even Condoleezza Rice. I told you right now, she's the person I'm listening to a lot. She said something that America cannot sit out of the global order, that great powers don't mind their business. That's what she said. She said great powers don't mind their business. So those who are thinking that America should focus on, this whole MAGA movement and America first policy. He said those who are saying all of those things are, I'm paraphrasing, those who are saying all of those things are wasting their time because great powers don't mind their business. Then she said that if America makes the mistake of sitting out of the creating a new global order, that Russia and China are going to create one. And the one that Russia and China create is not going to benefit the United States. So therefore, she also said that she does not want, and she asked her students, who wants to live in a world created by Russia and China? I've even heard Anthony Blinken say this. If I'm it's one of these, either Anthony Blinken or Jake Sullivan, one of them, but they said they don't want to live in a world created by Russia and China. And I'm asking, I said, are you threatening the world? Because if for something, for some reason that thing happens, are you threatening that you're going to blow up everywhere? Do you know what it means to say we do not want to live in a world created by Russia and China? So I'm bringing this to our attention now. Just as Viktor Orbán has told us, the whole chaos we are seeing in the world today is not because Putin is crazy. It's not because Xi Jinping is a dictator. It's not because anything that they are telling you from the mainstream media, Western mainstream media, is none of those things. It's because American hegemony is over and they're trying and kicking and screaming because they don't want it to end. And even if it looks as if it's ending, they want to create a new one that will favor them. So I'm saying, bringing this to your knowledge in Africa, yes, they have spent it for several decades, even as good as this 500 years. They have spent telling us that Africa, we are nothing. Africa is good for nothing. Africa offers nothing to the world. Africa is just the place that they come and they kneel and they beg, give us aid, aid, aid. The world just has, it's like the world just has to, oh, well, Africa is a necessary evil because they need our resources. So we might as well just, well, necessary evil. But I'm bringing this to your knowledge now. For you to, we as Africans, we need to sit down and ask ourselves, what does it mean to be African? We need to remember the African civilization. We need to relish in the glory of the African civilization. How did we forget the Zimbabwean empire? How did we forget Benin, the Benin kingdom? How did we forget Mansa Musa's Mali? How did we forget? The way we forgot, we need to begin to remind ourselves. Because for you to be able to assert yourself globally, and for you to say, no, we must create a pole, an African pole in this multipolar world, there's an ideological part of that thing. And you cannot create a strong pole for Africa if you're creating it from a place of inferiority. It will not happen at all, at all, at all. It's not going to happen. If you want to create that African pole for a place of inferiority, you're going to keep getting all this nonsense we've been having before. Otherwise, if we fold our arms and we wait for other people, whether it's Russia or China or the United States or even Europe, as this person I told you, I read this article before I started doing this show, as the argument he was making that Europe is going to assert itself again. If you wait for Europe to create an order, you remember your history with Europe, but you remember your history with Europe. So the only way that we can be sure of preserving Africa and the African civilization in this multipolar world is to sit down and think of Africa. What does it mean to be African? Condoleezza Rice is the question she asked. I'm going to be quoting her. Those of you who watch my show, I'm going to be quoting her for a very long time in the near future because I'm spending a lot of time listening to her lecture because I want to understand something about her. But that's by the way. One of the questions that she asked, she said, "What does it mean to be American?" The answer she gave is not the answer the regular Americans are going to give, but she gave that answer. And the answer she gave is an answer of greatness of our country. It's greatness. So that's the way they sold to you America's greatness. But before there was an American greatness that was manifested, there was an ideological greatness that the Americans had to have. You can't create those kind of policies. You may not like America. I don't like Imperial America. I don't like it. But I'm telling you, many of the things that I have learned recently has come from Imperial America. Because to create such a thing, you tell me, this thing doesn't just happen. The United States, yes, Biden and the US, this generation we've been seeing for the past decades, are people who have destroyed America. In my opinion, they've destroyed the United States, particularly this Biden administration. But before this destruction of the United States, the zenith, the peak of the US, where the United States got to, you do not get there by hoping and wishing. That's not how the world works. You do not get there by kneeling down and praying, help me, help me. No, 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 it doesn't work like that. You get there by being intentional. Intentional, yes. Beginning from where? What does it mean to be American? Because they thought they were better than you. That's why they said your mode of governance is bad. Take democracy. And when you said, no, no, we don't want democracy, they bombed you. They bombed you to oblivion. Go and ask them in Iraq. Go and ask them in Afghanistan. Go and ask them in Libya. But the shameful thing is after bombing, they still did not get the democracy. That's why they're saying Putin is a dictator. Xi Jinping is a dictator. Not because of anything. It's ideological. This thing is ideological. So we need to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be African? Go back to our history books and read of the glorious African, those who came before us. Before the shackles came, there was an Africa. Before slavery, there was an Africa. And it's painful that we don't know it. It's painful. And that's why you hear people debate that when they tell you that Africans got to the Americas before Columbus, people say never. Why? Because this is the Africa they have idea of. Those of you who are begging for aid. That's why there was a video I saw of these African Americans. They are black, but they are saying they are not descendants of Africa. Some of them are saying they are from India. Why are they trying to disassociate themselves from Africa? Why are they trying to cut off and completely wash their hands away from Africa? Because the Africa that they are seeing today is not something to be proud of. Let's be honest. Where else do you have such shameful level of poverty except here? Where else? The Africa today, what after they say success has many friends and failure is an orphan? Because this is the Africa they are seeing. That is why. But if we are going to transform this continent, first of all, we have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be African? Viktor Orbán said that the Western civilization has dominated for 500 years. It is over. As we speak today, the Western civilization dominance is over. We have an opportunity for Africa not to colonize it, no, not to colonize anyway. For Africa to assert itself, but before you can assert yourself to create an African pole in this multipolar world, you first need to think that Africa is a big deal. You first have to think that Africa is the real deal. And that is why I'm asking, what does it mean to be African? What is the ideology? Who are our heroes past? Who are heroes? Why? And we don't know. In many schools across Africa, we know Abraham Lincoln. We know him, but we don't know any historical figure in Africa. We don't know. Do you understand me? So I'm saying this now because I want to reiterate that the future we're entering, even from tomorrow, the foreseeable future, until this multipolar world fully forms, is going to be a very turbulent one. Because everybody is going to be pushing and screaming and making moves to make sure that whichever order the world finally settles to have is an order that will benefit them. And I'm saying so that we Africans, as we are saying, we must build an Africa pole. It starts with our mind. It starts with ideology. What does it mean to be African? Then after we decide what it means to be African, we will then ask ourselves, what do we want to do in the world? Because you can say, oh, well, Africa, oh, I'm saying this now, some people may be laughing. You're probably, yes, it's very likely. I'm saying this now, some people may be laughing. I'm like, oh, please, Africa is always going to be the backwater. After Donald Trump called it a shithole. Africa is always going to be a shithole. Oh, nobody saw the Chinese come up. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw Russia coming back on the scene. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. But all these things happened because some people in those countries said there can be more for China, and we are going to be intentional in creating that more for China. There can be more for Russia, and we are going to be intentional in creating that more for Russia. Even the United States, before the United States got to this global supremacists fighting to keep together, before the United States got there, some people came together and they said there can be more for this country, and they were intentional in creating that more. All these National Endowment for Democracy, all these TSOs that you see that is funded to the tune of millions of dollars, you think the Americans just want to dash money? No, they're doing that to push their national interest in your country, even sometimes at the detriment of you. They don't care. American national interest has to stand. So if we are going to create an African pole that will benefit Africans in this multipolar world, we have to sit down and say we have to be intentional. What is our strategy? What are we looking to create? We have to come together to do this thing because I don't see anywhere that said Africa cannot do it. There is no law anywhere that says Africa cannot be a formidable player on the global stage. Maybe some people have it as their biases. Oh, Africa has been poor for a really long time, so that is Africa's future. It's always going to be the poor place. Me, I choose to differ. I choose to differ. I beg to differ. I say no. Yes, it has been poor for a long time. That does not mean that tomorrow it's going to be poor. And I'm not saying it to sell silly hope. I'm not saying it to sell silly hope. Africa has everything it needs to become a formidable force on the global scale. Look at India. Come on now. What are we talking about now? What are we talking about? Look at India. See India. India used to be a poor, you know when you say the center of poverty. Yes, there are still poor people in India. But I've said this before, I'm saying it again. India is more important when it comes to geopolitics than the United Kingdom that colonized it. That did not happen by chance. It did not just, the Indians did not stumble into it. It did not happen by chance. So Africa is going to happen, but it's not going to happen by chance. If we keep folding our arms and we are waiting for things to happen, the same thing we have been seeing for 500 years, we'll continue to see it. But I'm reminding you that there was an African civilization, there was an Africa before the slave ships came. There was an Africa. Before they took your ancestors away in chains, there was an Africa. Who says tomorrow there cannot be an Africa greater than that one? Okay, maybe that one was not great. Fine. Who says we cannot create a new one? Who said so? I don't see anywhere. Even if, like I said before, even if some people might have it as their biases, I don't give a hoot what their biases are. I don't see anywhere, no book, no. And when I said no, God did not tell us that the African cannot change the state of Africa. You may be saying the problem is our leadership. I'm telling you now, let us remove our leaders from our mind. Because if we keep looking at leaders, the things we have been having since post-colonization to continue. The people that will change Africa is me and you. Don't worry. I have a plan. I have a plan. And like I said before, next year, one of the things that we are going to do, we are going to take control of the media landscape in Africa, citizen journalism. Citizen journalism. Everybody, you're going to be responsible for what is going on in your country. Everybody's going to be, because that's where it starts. Because why do you think you had such a thing? Was it called Operation Mockingbird? I think it was Operation Mockingbird, but I'll find the main thing and put it on the screen. What was that? When the CIA entrenched itself in media institutions to send out a certain narrative. Why do you think we had it? Media is important. That's why you had it. That's why you had it. Media is important the same way that a nation protects its airspace, its land borders, its seas with military. I think a nation should also take its information space seriously. And that's why we are going to, together, we are going to say, we are going to create an African media movement. We are going to do this in 2025. Get ready. Those of you who know how to write, will write, will use your gift of writing. Those of you who know how to talk, who know how to speak, will set up phones and you start doing your own talk because like I'm doing, you do your talk. Those of you who know how to talk but you don't want to show your face, you will use podcasts. Those of us who know how to just do short, you will use social media. We will use everything. Everything. We cannot let the African narrative be pushed by outsiders. You can't allow CNN, RT, Al Jazeera, CGTN, and the rest of them come and be talking about the African story. No, it will not happen. So we'll begin by there, from there to with that media, we'll begin from there to set up, to begin to arrange Africa, prop up Africa, so that Africa will take its space, a formidable place on the global scale. You can tell that this thing I'm very passionate about it. It's all over my face. I've been moving across around this place since. Well, Viktor Orbán has just told you that the reason the world is the way it is as we speak is because the era of Western civilization dominance is over. And he said the attention has moved to Eurasia. But I'm telling Viktor Orbán that Africa, the attention has moved to Africa. I've said this before. They told there was a just to round off, there was a um something I read somewhere, and they said the 19th century, the 18th century was the century of Europe. The 19th and 20th century is the century of United States. The 21st century is the century of Asia, and the 22nd century is the century of Africa. And I said to them, I'm not going to wait 100 years for Africa to be a formidable player on the global scale. They may have said 21st century is the century of Asia. I'm telling them that 21st century is the century of Asia and Africa. Because it is, that's what I'm saying, is it is this intentionalism that is going to make it a reality. So let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below, from Viktor Orban's statement to this move of creating an African pole in the multipolar world. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with all your friends and all your families, and even those you don't like. Share this video with everybody so we can spread this message across the continent and across the world.